This tutorial will go over how to cover tattoos so that they are transfer proof, waterproof, and long wearing. And I will go over 3 different levels of detailing. So number 1 will be a basic PaX paint cover, which is good for background. Number 2 will introduce undertones with alcohol paints. And number 3 will be good for detail shots with freckles and veining. I'm going to start with the MelPax Paint in Olive 4. This has an orange undertone which will help to counteract the black blue of the tattoo. We're going to pat this on with a brush, going over just the black ink areas that we are trying to counteract. If you have a color tattoo that you're trying to cover, you might need different colors to color correct. Just look at the color wheel and work out what is the opposite. Once we've got a good base coat over the Reaper rat, we're going to do a second layer over any areas where the blue-black ink is still peeking through. You can blow dry between layers to get a better coverage. The next step might be hard for you if you're not good at seeing colors, or easy for you if you have a good eye for color. This is the step where we match a base tone to our client's skin. I'm going to be mixing in Ivory with Shinto 2 and using the PaX thinner to make it a little bit more translucent. I mix these 2 colors together until they match Alistair's skin tone, and then I'm going to be applying it to the tattoo and the surrounding areas using my stipple brush. I went over onto the border of the tattoo a little bit, which I didn't want to do, so we're going to remove that excess paint using a cotton tip and a small amount of isopropyl alcohol. And this is our first level base paint job. This will work pretty well for background characters if you don't need a super close up with details. Now the next level of detailing, we're going to introduce some alcohol paints to shift the undertones to make it match Alistair's skin tone a little bit better. So I'm going to start with the cool tone from the Complexions palette. I will activate that with 99% isopropyl alcohol, and I want it to be quite thin and quite translucent. You don't want there to be obvious blue dots over the tattoo. And I'm going to use my cut off chip brush to spatter this nice translucent layer of cool tone over the whole area that we've covered. Next, I'm also going to do a layer of the DT blush and the pale yellow. These are really nice skin finishing colors. So this is the pale yellow and this is the DT blush. So I think this isn't quite light enough for Alistair's skin tone. I'm going to introduce this pale skin tone, which also has cool undertones. This is from the Bluebird Pale Skin palette. And again, I'm going to spatter a layer of that over the top. Then I thought it needed a little bit more variance with some darker tones as well, so I'm mixing together some of these medium skin tones from the Skin Illustrator Light Fleshtones palette, and I'm going to spatter a very light layer of that over the top. I also want to put a little bit of highlights over it as well, so I'm going to use this rice paper color also from the Light Fleshtones palette, and I'm going to spatter that over the top. This does look a lot brighter when you first spatter it on, and it's easy to panic, but as it evaporates, it does get a lot darker. And this is how the tattoo is sitting with those undertones adjusted. Now for level 3, I'm going to add in more details and try to get it even closer to his skin tone for close-up shots. I'm going to start using this vein blue color from the Light Fleshtones palette and put some really translucent veining through that area using a small brush. Now that the paints are kind of settling, I can see it's still slightly darker than Alistair's skin tone, so I'm going to add in some more rice paper, this time using a big stipple brush. I'm also going to add in some of that skin mottling using the Coral and Rose Adjuster from the Light Fleshtones palette. You want to keep this quite translucent as well, and if you feel like there's too much color being put down, you can tap it with a finger, and that helps to remove a lot of the excess color. I'm going to use a brush that is clean with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on it, and I'm going to stipple that over the area just to break down any harsh color or any edges of the color that I've just put down. And I'm also going to put a little bit more of that cool tone, also using the stipple brush instead of the spattering. This just applies the color a little bit heavier and a little bit more broken up. Next, I'm going to put some mattifying cream down just to take away the shine of that alcohol paints and PaX paints so that it doesn't stand out as being shinier than the rest of the skin. So zooming out and seeing a different perspective, you can see it's still slightly too yellow and slightly too dark. So I'm going to put a little bit more rice paper over the top. I'm going to use a spatter brush for this. And then for the final touch, we decided we would put some freckles in there just to add to the illusion that this is his actual skin and not something that we've painted on. So I'm going to use the freckle and the tea stain colors from the Bluebird character palette. Using an itty bitty brush, I'm going to put a little bit of color down and then tap it with my finger and keep applying that color and tapping it away until it's at a level of translucency and the size and shape that I want it to be. I'm going to add one more in the top corner that's a little bit smaller and a little bit darker. And this is our hyper-realistic tattoo cover-up and skin paint job for close-ups. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this was interesting and you learnt from it. I find PaX paints to be a really good base as they counteract most of the color coming through. And then I really like alcohol paints as a finisher, as their translucent washes can get really close matches to skin coloring and little skin details. Both the PaX paints and the alcohol paints are long-lasting, transfer-proof and waterproof, which makes it really good for tattoo cover-ups as you don't have to worry so much about them transferring to clothing, and it takes quite a lot to rub them off. To remove it, I would use an FX makeup remover, or you can also use some shaving creams. The blue gel kind works the best, or sometimes I've had success using baby oil as well. I will see you guys soon for the next video, and you can subscribe here if you're not already subscribed.